Picture this. I'm lounging in a cafe, sipping on a latte that costs more than my lunch, when in strolls this fellow. He's not flashy, no gold chains or loud jacket. But there's a quality about him that makes you sit up. He's the kind of man who blends into the wallpaper, yet somehow has the entire room on a string. Turns out, he's a retired spy. You can spot it in the way he moves, like he knows every corner of the place before his shoes even touch the floor. Now, most folks would ask about top-secret missions or hidden gadgets. But me? I can't resist the question that's burning in my brain. How do you seduce women? He doesn't miss a beat, just leans in, gives me this little grin and says, "You're asking the wrong question." I nearly choked on my latte. Then he hits me with this gem. You don't seduce women. You create an environment where they feel safe enough, curious enough to seduce themselves. That was the first gem. And trust me, it didn't make sense to me at first either. So I pushed him for more, and he broke it down in this way that was almost annoyingly simple. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how right he was. The power of presence. Be present. That's how he started. And he spoke it like a commandment chiseled on some ancient stone tablet. Most men, he insisted, aren't truly in the same moment as the woman they're trying to woo. Their minds wander off, chasing insecurities, cooking up witty comebacks before the conversation even calls for them, or tallying up personal goals as if it's a scoreboard. Women sense that from a mile away, he said, shaking his head as though baffled by the oversight. Now think about the last time you were engaged in a chat, but the other person's eyes glazed over every few seconds. They were nodding, smiling, saying, "Uh-huh." But their mind was off gallivanting who knows where. That's the scenario we're talking about. The spy told me to focus on genuine listening, not just hearing. Listening, he explained, isn't about waiting for your turn to talk. It's soaking in what she says and responding with curiosity. Because you actually care, not because you want something out of her. Instead of analyzing every detail you can get from her, ask yourself how you can add to the moment she's already living. It clicked for me. This wasn't about impressing with smooth lines or memorized pickup techniques. It was about truly being with her, absorbing her words like an eager student of her world, rather than a salesman hawking compliments for affection. Confidence is about comfort. The spy next offered a gem I found hard to forget. Confidence isn't about being the loudest in the room or tossing out jokes every time silence creeps in. It's about being at ease with that silence. We've all seen folks fall apart the minute conversation lulls. They rush to fill the gap with a joke or a random comment about the weather, anything to avoid that dreaded hush. But, as the spy told me, real confidence is when you stand unfazed by the quiet. He painted a vivid picture of his undercover days, sitting across from people he wouldn't trust with his coat, let alone his life. In that tense environment, silence was his ally, while others fidgeted and blurted nonsense. He let the hush work its magic, forcing them to reveal more than they intended. With women, it's a kinder version of that principle. When you don't scramble to fill every pause, you show you're comfortable in your own skin. You leave space for her to speak or even step closer, drawn by your calm. It's not about being aloof or distant. It's about fostering a moment where two people can truly meet without one party taking up all the air in the room. In short, you're inviting her into your world, rather than forcing your energy upon hers. Curiosity over charm. Of all the advice he doled out that day, one line stood out as the most brilliant. You don't have to be charming, you just have to be curious. Well, that sure made me do a double take. After all, we're taught from the get-go that if you want someone to like you, you'd better dazzle them with wit and charm. But the more he explained, the more it made sense. He pointed out that most folks are so busy trying to be liked, straining for the perfect joke, the clever anecdote, that they forget to actually connect. Rather than striving to be some spotlight-grabbing personality, take a genuine interest in who she is, what lights her up, what keeps her awake at night. Not in a detective's interrogative way, mind you. This isn't about ticking boxes off a mental checklist. It's about truly wanting to understand her world. When you approach it with sincerity, conversations flow as naturally as a river after a spring rain. But there's a caution flag here too. Curiosity is a two-way street. You're not just there to fawn over her stories. You've got a life to share, boundaries to keep. If you overplay the intrigue card, bending over backwards to accommodate her every whim, she'll sense the inauthenticity. The moment you become so eager to please that you vanish into her reflection, your allure evaporates. Be unpredictable, not flashy. Now, here's where his spy instincts glimmered. Predictability, he said, is the mortal enemy of sustained interest. Not because you should stoop to mind games or cheap manipulation, but because being as uniform as a row of tin soldiers is a surefire path to boredom. Surprise her, he insisted, not with fireworks or stunts that scream, "Look at me," but with the simple act of being unexpectedly genuine. We've all seen men trot out the same stale lines and recycled charm. He cautioned me not to be that guy. True unpredictability, it turns out, isn't about orchestrating elaborate schemes. It's about tapping into your genuine self, because no one else can replicate that. If you lean into your quirks, your passions, your unique way of seeing the world, you become anything but ordinary. Surprise her by being real, he said, flashing a wry smile. After all, honesty is the most unpredictable thing in a world full of pretenders, and that in itself is far more captivating than any flashy display ever could be. The unseen advantage. Be unattached. The final pearl of wisdom he dropped into my lap was this whole notion of detachment. Attachment, he said gravely, is the death of seduction. When you walk into a situation with, "I need this to happen," you practically hand over your power on a silver platter. Instead, show up as though you're perfectly fine either way, like you're just curious to see where this might lead, not clinging to the outcome. It struck a chord. How many times have we all found ourselves chasing after someone's approval, fretting over whether they'll give their number or grace us with more than a passing smile? Yet, the moment you let go of those anxious wants, a funny thing happens. You stop chasing, and they start noticing. That calmness, that easy confidence, draws people in faster than any fancy pickup line ever could. At this point, I couldn't help myself. I asked him outright, "Okay, but what's the craziest thing you've done to connect with someone?" He gave a knowing grin, like he'd been waiting for that question all along. "Sometimes," he began, "the most powerful move is to walk away." I nearly spit out my drink, but he continued, explaining how once on a crucial mission, building trust was the name of the game. He made sure folks knew he was there, asked a pointed question, showed a flicker of genuine interest, then promptly left before they could form solid opinions about him. "I planted the seed of curiosity," he said, "and let it grow on its own." It's not about pulling a vanishing act to manipulate someone, mind you. It's about recognizing the perfect moment to leave the encounter on a high note, so she's left with that lingering sense of, I want more. Your abrupt yet confident exit stamps itself in her memory, making you stand out in a world crowded with people who overstay their welcome. So, sometimes the best way to push things forward is to step back. Leave her wanting more, and she'll seek you out, drawn by the space you purposely left unfilled. It's bold, it's unexpected, and it leaves curiosity burning in your wake. By the time our conversation ended, it dawned on me that seduction isn't about memorized lines, flashy gestures, or even perfect looks. It's about the atmosphere you create, the feeling of safety, intrigue, and excitement when someone is around you. The spy's advice wasn't some revolutionary formula. It was simple, human, and so obvious we often dismiss it. So, next time you step into a room hoping to spark a connection, remember to be genuinely present. Let curiosity guide your words, and above all else, abandon the desperate scramble to impress. Seduction isn't a show you force. It's a natural outcome of authenticity and a hint of mystery. Crazy, right? If this conversation opened your eyes to a new way of thinking, give this video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you're hungry for more insights, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you along for the ride.